Hello there, I'm Trina Daniels. I'm a 17-year resident businesswoman and the wife of a wonderful husband who's also a retired police officer, the mother of 4 beautiful children, and my youngest diagnosed with autism. I've spent time volunteering in our youth programs for basketball, baseball, football, served on the board of Norco Girls Softball League. In most recent years, I have served countless hours with my therapeutic writing program, never receiving a penny for personal pay, and assisting children and young adults with disabilities. My professional background includes 10 years in the accounting field, managing budgets for multi-million-dollar companies. I was also an assistant vice president of a major bank where I managed a large sales force whose responsibilities were generating income. And my most recent 16 years in real estate and finance. This provided me the experience and knowledge to make the right decisions concerning our city and its budgets, to address current and future fund usage and maintain the integrity that has made Norco one of the finest communities in America. We need to address the crisis threatening our seniors and founders, the backbone of our fine city, develop subsidies, funding sources, and cost-sharing programs, and build ways to provide them better lifestyles. The diminishing and over-costly programs for our youth needs to be redefined. Registration for our youth programs is at a near all-time low. We need to wrap our arms around our youth programs by allocating costs and facility usage that will help them rebuild their registration before it is extinct. The success of our youth program is critical to our city's future. Norco needs to remain a city where families want to raise their children, have community involvement, and retire in. Thank you.
Councilman Bash?
Good evening. Good evening.
You know what, we forgot to warn you, that is a little temperamental, so you got to kind of hold it. And it's got a brand new battery, so I know it's not the battery.
Good evening. Norco's been my family's home since 1961. I ran 4 years ago because I was concerned at the financial direction our city was taking. A few of my goals then were cut costs. We downsized staff from 102 full-time employees to 52 and consolidated departments without losing services. Attracted a wide variety of businesses to generate sales tax revenue, no more eggs in one auto mall basket. Limit pensions and cap benefits. We cut the deficit. We climbed out of a $3.5 million hole, and the general fund numbers released just today state we had revenues last year of $15.9 million and spent $13.9 million, meaning our general fund grew by $2 million. Establish a more comprehensive fire service at a lower cost. This move saved the city of Norco from financial ruin. Support youth activities, which are now at a historically high enrollment level. Save our sheriff's substation from closure, which would have severely cut the number of deputies available to our streets. These are just a few of the goals that have been met. We're not out of the woods yet, and the next 4 years reflect that fact. More deputies long-term on the street through economic development. There are no shortcuts. Attract lifestyle-supporting, job and revenue-generating companies from mom-and-pop shops to Hobby Lobby, so you do not have to pay additional taxes to pay the bills. Negotiate the most competitive waste contract for the residents of Norco. Clean up commercial areas to attract companies willing to invest hard dollars in Norco. Relieve the negative impacts to seniors as a result of the loss of state and federal funding programs. Support programs that keep our children out of the back of squad cars. And finally, continue to vote to protect our animal-keeping lifestyle, large lots, open space, so that we always have the elbow room to own a horse, build that dream workshop, or just play catch and kick a ball in the backyard with our kids. Thank you.
Mr. Newton?
Good evening. My name is Greg Newton, and I'm seeking a seat on the Norco City Council. My family and I have lived in the city of Norco for the past 20 years. My equestrian activities range from competitive trail riding to horse show dad, and also an inductee in the Norco Hall of Fame. I have over 25 years experience in commercial and industrial construction management. I have successfully managed multi-million-dollar infrastructure projects in compliance with government regulations. I served on the Norco Planning Commission for 9 years and was instrumental in opposing housing on the golf course and in drafting the accessory building ordinance, which further protects and preserves our animal-keeping lifestyle. I was appointed to Malcolm Miller's council term in 2010 and was involved in reducing city expenses while maintaining emergency services and keeping our sheriff's substation open. Appointed by the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, I serve as chairperson of the Oversight Board to the successor agency. I am president of the Lake Norconian Club Foundation. As you well know, the foundation was formed to preserve and protect the natural and historical resources of the Lake Norconian and the Lake Norconian Club. I am an active member of the Norco Animal Rescue Team, NART. As a concerned resident, I have attended all city workshops and study sessions regarding budgets and zoning issues. Currently, I'm assisting in organizing city and volunteer efforts, completing the Corridon staging area, and also volunteering construction project management duties for the George Engels Memorial. There are many challenges our city will face over the next few years. In order to preserve our lifestyle, we must improve and maintain our solid waste and manure services, promote the success of Norco business, trails, water, and street infrastructure, senior programs, and community safety. My experience allows me to undertake this civic duty, fully aware of city policies, procedures, and complex budgets. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Greg Vaughn. I've lived in Norco for many years. My wife, Michonne, I have 4 kids. The oldest is 35, the youngest is 7, which she's got a black eye now. I love Norco. I could go into everything about me, but we have problems in Norco like every other city. And we need more police. We need our trails fixed. Just take our trails, for instance. We had our meters, went to the automated system. The city was going to take those 2 people and put them towards fixing our trails up. Did they? No. Why? Nobody pushed them. And if they did, it didn't happen. Well, that should happen. And we need more police. We need to put more cops in the units so we can go out and keep people from speeding, so it's safer to ride on our trails, it's safer to drive, and the more police presence you have, the less crime there is. It's just common knowledge. And some of the things I've done, I worked this year on the fair committee. It was a blast. I suggest anybody and everybody, if they want to do something for their city, work on the fair committee. It was phenomenal. People are just, they want to do nothing but give. And that's what I like about Norco. And I can't say enough about what Norco means to me. When I rodeoed for years, I loved to see my name up on the stands, not because of my name, it's where I was from. And I'm going to leave it with that. Thank you very much.
Just a quick reminder, if you have questions, please write them on a card and bring them into this jar. Thank you. And our first question, Councilman Bash, if you will begin for us. It's rather long, so I may have to repeat it for each of you. If I need to, please let me know. And as soon as our little crowd comes up, we'll...
The golden triangle.
Okay, with the likelihood of Harupa Valley disincorporating as a city, and knowing that all of Norco's first responders are contracted with the county, also considering the increased property tax revenue, sales tax revenues that will come to the city, and the ability to have accessible land for the state-required housing element, what are your thoughts about annexing Miraloma to Norco?
Years ago, I would have been for that. In fact, most of you know that historically, one time Norco went all the way to Swan Lake, all the way to the 91 through Costco. I would not be for it now simply because the property values there are very depressed. There's a lot of rural areas that are really, really run down. It's 45 square miles. I don't think that would be in our best interest at this point. Maybe a portion of it along the 15 would be pretty good, as long as they don't put all of those power wires in. But I would be against it other than the commercial area along the 15.
Thank you. Greg, first Greg, Greg number 1.
Well, I like
Mr.
that.
Newton, do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. With the likelihood of Harupa Valley disincorporating as a city, and knowing that all of Norco's first responders are contracted with the county, also considering the increased property tax revenues, sales tax revenues to the city, and the ability to have accessible land for the state-required housing element. What are your thoughts about annexing Mira Loma into Norco?
I would be against annexing Mira Loma into Norco. I would love to see us be able to bring the Lowe's shopping center to Norco for the tax revenue. I would see, this could be a benefit for first responders, more hiring for CAL FIRE and Riverside County Sheriff. That would certainly be a benefit with that. As far as the housing element, I don't think that would be an impact at all. As many of you know, that's part of and related to our land use agreement, that those regional housing numbers for low and low mod housing shouldn't really affect us, and I would tend to try to stay out of that area as far as annexation.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen?
Yeah, I would oppose it because there's a reason why Mira Loma's going under. There's not a lot of business there. Eastville has taken a lot of the business. They're floundering. Why would we want to take on somebody that's about ready to drown? Like Kevin mentioned, we could annex Sky Country and all the commercial property that goes down along the freeway. That'd be great. Could we do that? I don't know. I'd have to look into it, but I'm sure they wouldn't want us just to annex certain parts of it. But I'd be totally against bringing Mira Loma over and then inquiring all their problems if we have enough right now. So we don't need more.
Thank you. And if you guys could pass that down to Mrs. Daniels. And do you need me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Yeah, I too would be opposed to it. I think it's a little bit too complex because of the diversity in what Mira Loma offers. I think they do have a challenge down their main streets, if you will, for businesses, and the business is flourishing. The Lowe's shopping center would be great if we could cherry pick what we could get. We have our own code enforcement issues here in our city. Would theirs match ours? I think we're obviously tighter, stricter. I just think we just have more diversity. And the lower property values, I don't see us generating a lot of income, from tax purposes on that side of it. Yeah, if we could just pull out the Lowe's shopping center, that would be huge. The rest of it, which we know we can't do, so the rest of it, I definitely don't think it would work.
Okay, we have 30-second rebuttal time if anybody chooses to use it. Anybody needing that? Okay, if you could pass this one down to Mr. Bowen. This question is specifically for him. And it says, you propose more police. How do you how do you plan to pay for them with no grants available? Also, public work employees have no time to do trail work.
Is that two questions or one?
Yeah, it's all in one part, so there you go.
First of all, talking to Kevin, he says next year we're going to be flush with money because we have new business coming, so it's not going to be an issue to get more police to come in. Grants, we can get grants. I've looked into it, like I've said before, and I work as a reserve with San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, and there's grants that we use, and I'm sure that Riverside Sheriff's use the same grants. I haven't looked into it because I'm not on the council yet. And as far as our streets, our trails, the city said that they were going to go ahead and take the 2 meter readers and put them on trails. My question is, why didn't they do that? And how come it's not being done?
Thank you. If you could just leave it with Greg Newton, please. Okay, next question. This is one of our pre-submitted questions. It's actually fairly long as well. So if you need me to, excuse me?
Is there a 30-second rebuttal to that statement or not?
Yeah, actually, if you want to, you certainly may. 30 seconds, Kate.
I would like to add, in order to sustain police services, that I would propose we continue on the path of paying down our structural imbalance. We need to continue to pre-fund the trusts and the liabilities, which will then free up funds in the general fund. Grants are hard to get, and a lot of grants require matching funds also. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to? Councilman Bench?
The meter readers, we just couldn't afford them. Secondly, grants have a period of time when they run out, and then all of a sudden you got to pull the money out of the general fund. What we've been trying to do for the last 4 years is build the general fund so that eventually we have enough money long-term to fund deputy sheriffs. There's no grant way out of this. We have to figure out a way to pay for those deputy sheriffs through our economic development.
Thank you. And Mrs. Daniels, would you like to, if you could give that back to Mr. Newton, please? Okay, next question. Again, it's fairly long, so if you need me to repeat it, please let me know. We have heard about how many businesses have come into town, especially large companies, which is great. However, larger companies have an advantage in the process of opening because they usually have been courted by the city and therefore have a direct line to staff and council. What, if anything, would you do to level the playing field and streamline the process for smaller, less influential businesses to open in town?
All business is important, whether it's large, small. Small business makes up well over 80% of our economy in this country and probably in this town. What we need, and I've thought about this, is either an internship, a marketing intern, someone where if you're a small business, you can go and be walked through the process at City Hall and be treated just as equal if you were a large corporation or 1 or 2 people. The basic foundation of this, and we tried this philosophy and it was successful on the Planning Commission, is always focus on the success of business. What you want to know as a business, either small or large, is that you're going to be able to succeed. Thank you.
Mr. Bowen.
Well, as far as business coming in, the permit process that we have, the hurdles we have to jump, we should take somebody and have, this is your person to go to, and this person can walk you through every step. I sat down last night and talked to quite a few people at my fundraiser, and almost everybody had the same, pitch, and that was, it takes too long to go through planning, boom, boom, boom. And everybody had the same complaint. And they said the same thing. City Hall does not know what they're doing. And that's not me, that's the people out there, and that's the people I'm going to be representing, so I need to listen to them. Thank you.
If you pass that down to Mrs. Daniels, please.
Larger businesses, before they come into our town or any town, they're not necessarily here first step because of an influence of our city. Larger companies like your Wincos, or they're searching for years. They've got teams doing demographic studies. They're not just walking in and letting somebody at the city convince them to be here. What we need to do is we need a better awareness of our businesses. I think we need to promote our businesses better, promote Shop Norco. Also, I think if we broadened our guidelines on the types of businesses that we do want in this town, and I'm not saying bring in manufacture, businesses are going to generate jobs and businesses are going to generate sales revenue. As much as we all love our horse town and we want to keep things horsey, we've got a lot of feed stores and we have a lot of Western clothing stores. We need to broaden what will bring in outside traffic.
And Councilman Batch.
The last 4 years, we completely revamped the Economic Development Department. We've attracted dozens of businesses, everything from robotics companies, small business, large businesses. One of the advantages I have is I actually have a brick and mortar business. I make a payroll. I have gone through the permit process many, many times. It doesn't matter what size your business is. One of the programs that we're beginning to institute is the 3 times 30, which is you spend $30 to $50 at a business 3 times a month to try to support that business. We've been very, very aggressive over the last 4 years, and it's paying off.
Okay, thank you. This next question is from our nifty little jar here. It's actually directed towards Mrs. Daniels. WRCOG, what does this stand for? What do they do? Should Norco join this organization?
I'm not sure.
This was a question, I don't know, is she getting it? I don't know, but this was a question for Mrs. Daniels.
I'm not familiar with what the WRCOG is.
WRCOG, W-R-C-O-G.
We already belong to it.
Thank you, Harvey. You're not running anymore, be quiet. Okay, on that note, let's move on to the next question. Do we want a 30-second rebuttal on?
Yeah, certainly.
Go for it.
See, it'll help me with the answer. WRCOG is, the city does belong to it. It's an organization of all the Western Riverside Regional Council of Governments. We've been a member. Kathy Acevedo is on the executive committee. I also served on the Mixed Solid Waste Council. Thank you.
It is vitally important to the city of Norco that we belong to that particular organization.
And Mr. Bowen, would you like to have a 30-second? Okay, well, you're up next. You're up next. Keep it.
Keep it great.
Bowen, the mic. You're up next.
Yeah.
All right.
I won't make 30 seconds rebuttal. We are a member, and it's extremely important.
Okay, Mr. Bowen. What are your thoughts and what is the status of the manure to energy facility?
My thoughts, I've talked to Harvey a lot about this, and we have a lot. Trust me, but I have, it leaves my house constantly. I'm sure it does Kevin's too, with all the horse he has over there. And I think it's a golden opportunity for us to go ahead and use it into energy, find a place that we're going to go ahead so we don't get snuffed like we did with Chevron because Eastville didn't like it, and find a spot that we can put it that's not going to affect the residents of this town while it dries, and use it. I mean, it's great. Solar power is great. Using this stuff for energy, it's phenomenal. It's green.
Now we go down to Mrs. Daniels, please.
Repeat the question for me.
Sure. Question is, what is your opinion of, excuse me, I'm jumping to the next one. What are your thoughts and what is the status of the manure to energy facility?
As far as the status, according to the special meeting that the council had on I believe it was the 25th, Harvey Sullivan did bring it up to Waste Management to discuss it further with them. I believe it's been fully researched. I think it's a great concept. It should be implemented, but I think, we need pragmatically, where is it going to be placed? How is we going to get the energy from the plant to the destination where it needs to go? How much is it going to transport it? What is it going to still cost to take the waste out of our properties? How much are we going to pay to dump it at this facility? I mean, we've still got a lot of research to do on it. Conceptually, I think it's great, but it's where it's going to be and how is it really, really going to benefit us? We're still going to pay to get the manure taken off our streets, our properties.
Thank you. And Councilman Bash?
At the last meeting, I said we needed to get a manure to energy plant ASAP. We are at the mercy of the dump sites. I believe that Norco, to protect their animal keeping, must go to a manure to energy plant. The technology is here. I mean, when Harvey and all of us were talking about 1997, 98, 99, the technology was not here. It is now here. We must find that solution. We don't have a choice otherwise.
Thank you. And Mr. Newton?
The status of the Chevron study is basically a receive and file, and it's sitting on the shelf right now. That study has some fundamental flaws in it. We could never meet the green waste requirement that Chevron had looked at. We produce 58 to 60 tons of manure a day. And the thing that we have to look at, I've developed a 36-month time frame plan that we're going to be critical need within 3 years if we don't get extremely serious about how we're going to convert our manure to energy, whether it's working with a company that has like an anaerobic digester, if we look at gasification, or if we partner regionally, and that's going to be the only way we can do it and build our own facility in town. Thank you.
Thank you. And does anybody want a 30-second rebuttal?
Yeah. I have the answer to annexing Mariloma. We could put it over there. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, if we could give it to Mrs. Daniels, please. Okay, next question. Actually, just so that you guys are aware, I pulled a card out. It was a duplicate to a question already asked. Okay, and we've got a lot of people, a lot of questions. If we have chance, I'll re-ask questions that have already been asked. But if I see a duplicate, I'm going to put it to the side. Okay? Okay, question. Why is Silver Lakes not done? Why does current city council just keep making excuses?
Well, that's a tough one for me to answer in my position because I'm not on the council and making decisions. My answer, my thoughts, whether you call this subjective rumors, my opinions. Good question number one is why we spent $5.9 million for a field of weeds. Why is the contractor not out there developing? I understand he's having financial issues. Why it's not moving? Good question. Can we afford to even get it moving? Can he afford to come back out here and get it moving? So, yeah, it's kind of a mess right now, honestly. And it's really a shame that we've spent so much money in the condition that it's in right now.
And Councilman Bash.
It's not a mess. You know what? That's a project that it's amazing. It's still alive. We hit the second worst economic downturn in the history of the United States. You can call it an excuse all you want, but the truth of the matter is we had a deal in place. Had that been built during that time, the flood would have taken it out. You then had regional money poured into that dike. Normally it takes 6 years to put a dike up like that. It took 6 months. You had contract issues for a year that had to be worked out. You had things like telephone poles that needed to be moved and Edison wasn't coming through. This is a regional project that is in process. The man is paying us $33,000, $40 a month. Stater Brothers gives us, what, about $1,000? That is directly to our general fund. You know, one of the things we need to learn to do, and I mean this, is we need to support business in town and give this guy the benefit of the doubt. I believe it is on track and it is moving forward.
And Mr. Newton. I would be happy to repeat the question. The question is, why, just in fairness to all of the people here, let them hear the answers, please. Why is Silver Lakes not done? Why does current city council just keep making excuses?
Thank you for such a complex question. Let's go back and look at a little of the history. When I was on the Planning Commission, myself and the commission, we reviewed the environmental report and the development agreement. And I'm 100% confident that we did our due diligence with this project. Surely the economy, some personal issues have come into play on this, and the performance has stopped on the site. The concerns of staff and with council, with the funding and the progress on this, I don't see this with malice. We have to get past the negative attitude and focus on the success of this project. And by doing that, and if I'm on council, I will be positive with the performance, with the success of this project.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen.
Well, I'm not on the city council, so I can't answer that, but it sounds like, by everything that I've gone to, and I've listened to, and that I've read, is that our city manager didn't do her job. I'm sorry, but that's the way I look at it.
Hey, please.
No,
Go ahead.
if you were to read the report, and I'm sorry if I offended anybody out there, but if you read the report, it says that we're paying the bond for it. They didn't do a search on it. They changed the name of the company midway through. I mean, there's so many holes that it's mind-boggling. And you don't do government work that way. Line items that are for a specific project have to go to those line items. You don't take line items that are going for water and sewer and pay for doing land grading.
Thank you. 30-second rebuttals? There you go.
Let me back up by saying this. I support the project. I would love to see Silver Lakes done. As an equestrian showing horses all of my life, I've always thought we need some Class A shows in the city. Don't get me wrong. I don't think there was any malice done either. I think maybe we should have had some contractual amendments when the draws were given. Maybe there was just a little mismanagement on the way this contract was handled, but I would love to see it done. So let me make that clear.
And Councilman Batch.
Beth Groves, our former city manager, was brilliant in keeping this project together. It went through a lot of different changes. We initially bought this because Eastville was going to put houses on it. That's why we bought it. That's why we paid the $5 million. It was a 3-2 vote. We have gone through a lot of changes, and what's happened, and we've done these contracts throughout different meetings, and we have worked to keep it together. The man, if he was going to walk, would not be paying you $33,000 a month and covering the debt service. I'm sorry, but you know what? We are really doing a disservice to this developer and to the city council efforts.
When all of you bought your house, you took a risk, and with this project, there's a risk involved with this development that we need to get past it. Yes, we loaned $5.5, $5.6, $6 million in water sewer pass-through bonds. We own the land, and if everything works out and this loan is, eventually repaid, then we're ahead of the game. But let's focus on the success of this. Thank you.
And Mr. Bowen, do you have a 30-second rebuttal? No? Can you pass that down to Councilman Bash, please? What is your opinion of, similar to a dog license, instituting a horse license?
It's very interesting. Our first city council actually proposed that very thing, but I'm dead set against it.
That was quick. Mr. Newton?
No. I would not support a tax on horses or a fee or a licensing. And even if you just stand back and look at it, how would you possibly enforce this? The cost of the personnel to be constantly running back and forth to every property, neighbors turning in neighbors, it's just a disaster waiting to happen. I would certainly not support this in the least.
And Ms. Bowen?
I agree. I think having license for horses is ridiculous. I mean, I wouldn't want to ride down the trail with a collar on my dog. So, the answer is no.
Thank you, and if you could pass that down to Mrs. Daniel?
No.
Easy. Does anybody need a 30-second rebuttal on that one? All righty then. If we could pass the mic down to Mr. Bowen, this question is for him. And the question is, your father-in-law is a current councilman. It is normal to discuss issues. Do you agree or disagree with him on most issues?
Well, I love the man to death. He's the best grandpa you can ever imagine. And I have no bones about it. Everybody knows he's my father-in-law. I have a lot of respect for him. Do we see eye to eye? No, we don't. I have different opinions than he does, and vice versa. But I have all the respect in the world for the man, and I am glad he's my father-in-law.
Thank you. Does anybody need a 30-second rebuttal to that? Mr. Newton, go ahead and keep that, please. Okay, next question. What types of new businesses would you like to see come to Norco, and how will you help to get them here? I'm sorry, Greg Newton. You want me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Okay. What types of new businesses would you like to see come to Norco, and how will you help to get them here?
I think overall what I'd like to see is a business that fits our general plan. a commercial use that supports the preservation of small plot agriculture, animal keeping, and our equestrian lifestyle, and tax generating revenue. The way to bring these businesses here is, as I've mentioned earlier, is we have to show business that we want them to succeed, and they have to have the confidence that they will succeed in their business. That can be done in various different ways with our EDAC committee, our economic development director, and the overall consensus of council that we're pro-business and that we're business friendly. Thank you.
Mr. Bowen? Sure. What types of new businesses would you like to see come to Norco, and how will you help to get them here?
Well, hindsight's 20. I think Bass Pro Shop would have been a perfect place for Norco. I'm sorry, but that's the way I think. But we need, just like everyone in here pretty much agrees on the same thing. It has to fit Norco on certain aspects, and other aspects, it could be offices. They could bring their main office for Winco. They could bring their corporate office here, and we get generate all the revenue from that. And there's numerous ways that you can get businesses to come in. We have plenty of office space that is still open, and we could Cabela's. We could, hit up Cabela's to come over here. It's the same as or similar to the Bass Pro Shop. It would fit in, and it would generate a lot of revenue.
Thank you. If we can pass that down to Mrs. Daniels, please.
Well, we need businesses that are going to create jobs, and we need businesses that are going to create sales tax revenue for us. Maybe we can, somehow rally together with our landlords that have all this vacant space, cooperatively work with them with our commitment from you, the community, that you will shop these businesses. There's going to be some, culpability on both sides, and, present to these businesses that are here with these vacancies what we can do with our promotion, and maybe get them to get some rent incentives. I mean, right now we've got vacancies, but we've got landlords that want top dollar. What do? It doesn't matter what, we're not in control of the rents, but we need jobs and we need revenue, sales tax revenue.
Thank you. And Councilman Bash?
We need two kinds of businesses. We need businesses that draw people, and then we need businesses next to them that are point of sale and we get sales tax from. We're the last city in the state of California, by law, you build on a half acre or more, which means we make $1.1 to $1.3 million a year of property tax. We live and die on sales tax. I want a business that doesn't hurt our lifestyle. For example, one of the business most of you probably don't know, there's a guy here that actually calibrates machine gun barrels. Point of sale. We make money. We have a robotics company here. We have Winco. We have Hobby Lobby coming. We have the auto dealerships. One of the mistakes we've made in the past is we literally put all of our eggs in one basket. The last 4 years, you've had a council, I wish I could take credit for all, but they have very aggressively sought business to come here, and it comes in all shapes and all sizes. As long as it doesn't impact our lifestyle and supports it, that's the kind of business we want here. We've completely rezoned 6th Street in terms of new businesses and Hamner Avenue to try to get ready. By the way, the reason you're getting a new hotel is because of that Yoruba Park that's being built on the other side.
Thank you. Does anybody need a 30-second rebuttal on that? Oh, actually, Mr. Newton, could you answer that question? That's what I thought. Okay. I'm messing up my system here. Sorry. Okay, next question is actually addressed to both Greg Bowman and to Mrs. Daniels. The question is, either one, you're closer to Greg, so okay, that'll work. Mrs. Daniels, why haven't you joined or volunteered for any nonprofits, commissions, or city groups?
Well, my first and foremost has been my family, and my focus on my family and raising 4 children, and all active in sports and community sports, and being a big part of everything that they've done. Raising a child with autism comes with its own challenges. And I've spent the last 3 years going through some really trial times with my son, and we're at a great place now. This is something I've always wanted to do, something I've always focused on doing since the day I moved into this city. And it's time, and I'm here and I'm now. And my spare time is in my backyard with my therapeutic writing center, helping kids with disabilities. So I am actively involved with what I do there, but I'm here, I'm now, and I want to help our city. Very the end.
Thank you, and if we could pass that down to Mr. Bowen, please. I would be happy to. The question is, why haven't you joined or volunteered for any nonprofits, commissions, or city groups?
Well, I have. For 26 years, approximately 1,200 hours a year, I've been a reserve sheriff deputy. Excuse me. I'm also involved with NARC. I'm also was on the fair committee this year for the first time. I believe that's a nonprofit. Had a blast. I suggested for everybody. And there's Little League. I don't know if that's considered nonprofit. Basketball, football. I mean, I don't know if this question was actually meant for me, but I donate a lot of time over the years, and I really don't want to tally it all up because it probably would scare me. So, and it might make my wife mad.
Anybody want a 30-second rebuttal on that? Okay, Mr. Newton, if you could pass that back to Mr. Bowen, please. Thank you. Okay, next question. What do you see as the role and purpose of a city council person and of the council as a whole?
City council, well, Kathy Azevedo is the perfect example. I mean, she's outgoing. I mean, when you think of Norco, Worst Town USA, you think of Kathy. And you think of people like Harvey. Harvey is dedicated to the seniors. And Kevin, I mean, Kevin's the Norconian. And Irwin's the Horsemen's Association. And you look at these people, and each one of them has Norco in their hearts, and they want to do well. And I know I do. That's why I think I'm going to make an excellent city councilman, because we need to take every one of these people, and we need to go out and drag new business into the city, entice them, make it streamlined so the permit process is easier, and make sure that everything goes fine so they can do business.
Thank you.
Now.
If we can pass that down to Mrs. Daniels. And same question, do you need me to repeat it?
No, I'm good. But the role and the purposes is to represent you, the people, to make decisions on issues that concern our lifestyle, your lifestyle, and our job is to keep your checkbook balanced.
And Councilor Bash.
Our job is to represent you, of course. It's also to make sure that we have enough money in the bank to cover the things that you need. Councils go through different periods. Right now, what you have to do is have the ability to sit across from a CEO of a company that you want to come to Norco, and he has to believe that Norco is the place to come. That right now is the single most important thing we need. Second thing is you have to make sure you vote to preserve the lifestyle of the city of Norco. And you have to constantly vet that person you're talking to make sure they're telling you the truth.
And Mr. Newton.
Thank you. Being a city council member is you're a policy maker. Your first obligation is to the residents for public safety, then as financial stability and watching our checkbook. One of the main considerations is an understanding of the general plan, which is the overall development plan for the city of Norco. I mentioned this earlier. It's the preservation of small plot agriculture, animal keeping, and our equestrian lifestyle. You must have a complete understanding of these general plans, the elements that comprise it, which are 6, your land use, your circulation, your housing, as we talked about, the low cost, low mod housing, conservation, open space, noise, and safety, and a complete understanding of our charter and our charter issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody need a 30-second rebuttal on that?
I actually want to add one more thing if I could. I just want to add one more element of that is large or small, always shop and send your contracts, city contracts out to bid to protect your dollars.
Okay, we're done with the rebuttals? Okay. If we could pass this down to Mrs. Bowen, this question is for everybody.
Mrs. Bowman?
Oh, sorry. Hey, I've been doing pretty darn good so far. No, Mrs. Daniels. I got the Mrs. part right, which is the last name.
Or you're gonna get in trouble, aren't you?
Okay, how do we move forward? How do we move forward for the manure plant and Silver Lake's completion? What will you do to move these projects?
Well, we need to, as far as the manure to energy, is that what I heard? Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's what it means.
Right. Well, I mean, we obviously need to work cooperatively with whomever we are, whether it's waste management, who we move forward with our disposal services. You know, we need to allocate or find land. We need to get with a company and someone that can do the implementation. We need to further explore it. That's just a must. As far as Silver Lakes, you know, we've just got to tighten things up maybe a little bit, manage. You know, again, that's a hard question for me to ask because I've not been there through the contract negotiations with the current council. But you know, maybe tighten things up a little bit, maybe make some amendments to our contract if we are moving forward with him, maybe a little bit more transparency for everybody out here, and you know, get Mr. Brandis to a couple meetings to get us up to speed, and let's just see the tractors rolling again.
Thank you. And Councilman Bash?
Whoever we partner with the manure waste management, or whatever the company is, I believe that an element of that has to be the manure to energy plant. In terms of Silver Lakes, we're in a public-private partnership. We have a fiduciary obligation to protect the money that we have spent and the money that he has spent and the county has spent, and Eastvale, and Riverside, and Corona, to widen the street, things like that. Where it's at right now is with the bank. We are waiting to find out if that loan is going to be funded. We've been here before. It's fallen through when different things happen. Call them excuses, but the truth is that this thing is still standing is amazing. Right now, it's in the bank's hands, and we're just waiting day by day to find out what's going to happen.
Thank you. And Mr. Newton?
On our manure to energy, this is going to have to be a regional cooperation with a trash hauler by whichever name we eventually choose. The 36-month time frame that I'm working on is critical for this plant. We need to be looking at this technology and be serious about it. No, we can no longer wait and think about it, put it on the shelf, take it off the shelf. We need to move forward on this. With Silver Lakes, let's be done with the negativity. We know where we're at. We know what the loan is. What we need is the performance. If we're waiting for finance, let's be supportive as a council and try to just make this progress go. Once the funding gets in place, the construction's going to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen?
You should have brought your jogging shoes.
He told me he wasn't going to sit at the end of the table anymore because they're all handing them to him.
Our manure to energy is a perfect way to go. I mean, whatever company we go with, we need to work with them because just like I did and everybody in here, we got our water bill and our manure rates are going to be going up. And this is a perfect example that it'll keep it down. Hopefully it keeps it down if we can manage it right, keep it down, and use it for a positive input for the city of Norco. We can generate energy for it. And as far as Silver Lakes, there's nothing more that I want to see Silver Lakes go. But the problem is we're not getting any answers from the people we need to get answers from. I would love somebody to sit up and say, look, this is what's going to happen, but don't whitewash them and just tell us straight up. They're getting a loan. The first time I ever said that I found out was today. Someone told me that they were going to go get a loan. And I would love for Silver Lakes to go forward.
Thank you. Does anybody want a 30-second rebuttal?
Yeah, thank you. at various council meetings. This is why you need to attend workshops, study sessions, council meetings. RJ Brandis comes to council maybe once a month and stands and asks everyone in the audience, do you have any questions of me? And all he gets is a look with the arms folded, and no one stands up and asks these questions to him. Thank you.
I don't believe this is whitewash. This is a business, and part of the issue is it's at a bank. He's announced there was a letter of intent. He announced that he got through the divorce, which we caused a lot of problems. We were all briefed on that divorce, and what we did was we talked about it, and a bank walked because of that information. We're now at a place where a bank, it's in their budget, the bank president he's approved it, and we're hearing that now it's up to the board of directors and they're vetting out some questions. That's where we are right now. How much more transparent can you be? We have to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other quick thing to think about on the manure and energy, and don't get me wrong, I'm in favor, but things we have to think about, we've got to keep it close to home. It's going to cost money to transport that energy from that plant to its end destination. It cannot travel too far. The further it goes, the more it's going to cost. We're still going to have to pay to get the manure off our properties, we're going to have to pay to get the plant in, get it going. So we need the right allegiance with the right company. We just don't need a big feather in our cap for going green. We need this energy to help our city.
Thank you. And Mr. Bowen, did you have a 30-second rebuttal?
Yeah. I was at that city council and I listened to him talk, and like I said before, I'm not a politician, and I'm going to be the first one to say it. I would love for someone to just say it straight up. This is what's going to be, and Kevin pretty much just did right now, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Councilman Bash, you're first on this next one. Okay, how will you communicate with all of the citizens of Norco regarding any city problems, issues, and challenges?
Well, twice a month, I actually send out a newsletter, and I try to keep everybody apprised of what is going on in the city of Norco. I've tried on Facebook, but every time I go on there, I get beat up, so I'm getting tired of that. But my newsletter's been very successful. It goes to about 3,000 people. And in that, I try very, very, very hard to let people know what is going on in the community. I believe if you do attend meetings, unfortunately, government is a cooperative effort. You've got to get to meetings. I've been going to Silver Lakes meetings for 12 years or longer. And but again, the other thing is I know every city council member has a telephone and you can call them. I believe that one of the advantages of Norco is we have very accessible council people. Call me if you have questions. Don't get second or third hand information. If you have a question about Silver Lakes or anything else, call me. Call Harvey, call Berwin, call Kathy. We're all available.
Thank you. Mr. Newton?
Would you repeat the question?
I would be happy to.
Thank you.
How will you communicate with all of the citizens of Norco regarding any city problems, issues, or challenges?
The newsletter, the constant contact is the best way to get out there to the residents. What we also have to do as a city is we meet the bare legal requirements of communication. The city needs to communicate better. We'll do the legal postings, but we don't really get that information out to the people. And that's one thing that's troubled me for a long time. But we're moving into the direction of where the city has a website, their Facebook. Those need to be constantly updated. Also in regard to the social media, the different forums that we have in town, I try to really stay positive with these, but they start to make my head hurt. Thank you.
Mr. Rowan? How will you communicate with all of the citizens of Norco regarding any city problems, issues, and challenges?
That's easy. You get out there and you get on the committees with them. You get on the fair committee. You make yourself available for these people to come up to you. I know Kevin does. I see Kevin at the donut shop. I can ask Kevin anything. I can ask Harvey anything. And I think that's one thing Norco is very good about, is we can go up to our councilman and we can ask them point blank. We may not like the answer, but we will get an answer. Now, as far as websites and stuff, we are doing that. You go to the other cities and you don't get the communication with their city council that we do. And do we have places we can work on? Absolutely, because every one of the council people, and I believe this, should work for every citizen. I don't care if you believe in what he believes in. I don't care if you had a spat with him. You need to represent that person, whether you believe in what he believes in or not. Thank you.
Thank you, and Mrs. Daniels.
We just put it on the internet, because you can't put anything on the internet that's not true, right? No, it's not just one council person's responsibility to communicate with the residents. There's culpability on both parts. Go to the website, read the minutes, come to the meetings. And you know what, I think each and every council person currently and in the future will definitely be very reachable, attainable. Phone numbers are posted on the city's website. Unfortunately, we just all can't get out and reach each and every one of you at any given time with an update from last night's meeting and so on and so forth. But by all means, I don't think a resident of the city should ever be inhibited to ever give a council person a phone call. Don't ever be inhibited to show up at a meeting. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. 30 seconds.
One of the responsibilities, when I first got on council, we had no money. We had no money for a newsletter. We're now building our funds. We're now building our general fund. $2 million in the last year for a city our size is huge. One of the responsibilities we have as a council person, when the SHIT is hitting the fan, we need to be out there. Council people, I believe, need to be at Boy Scout events. They need to be at football games. They need to be seen so people can see them, so they can talk to them. And I think that's a vital part of being on council. By the way, Herb's another person you can call. I just saw him back there.
Thank you. Mr. Newton, did you have a 30-second rebuttal? Okay. Okay, real quick, before we go into... Mrs. Daniels.
Now, just one other element is we all deserve as residents more transparency. So when you are asked a question, it should never be danced around. It should be open, honest, just more transparency through and through. I think we are lacking a little bit of that now.
Thank you. Before we go to the next question, does anybody up here need a 5-minute break? We're all okay? Last chance. All right.
Are we going for another hour?
Mr. Newton, this first one goes to you. You got your handy microphone there? Okay. $5 million was used from water and sewer bonds to put public utilities on the Silver Lakes properties: gas, electric, water, and sewer. Would you lease property without these services?
That loan was made through water, sewer, pass-through bonds. If I understand this correctly, you have to. The city is the landowner. If in a development, if I was owning the property, that cost would be on me to go out to the street, bring the utilities on site to my property line. If in the Silver Lakes case, the city is the landowner, the city is responsible for bringing these utilities onto the site. I know there was questions about the dirt and the grading within this, but you have to bring up your dirt grade before you bring your utilities in. So in this case, since the funding wasn't there, it seemed that the point was, let's make the nexus, use the funds through the water sewer pass-through bonds, and if the developer, R.J. Brandis, is going to take this out as a loan, then we have that cost repaid to us.
Mr. Bowen? Where was it?
I got 30 seconds.
No, this is your 1 minute. You haven't answered this question yet. Right? Or did you? Okay. $5 million was used from water and sewer bonds to put public utilities on the Silver Lakes properties: gas, electric, water, and sewer. Would you lease property without these services?
Would I? No. I wouldn't. But I'm sure we're talking about Silver Lakes. Silver Lakes, I really hope it, we just found out that they're trying to get a loan. And they're trying to get it funded so they can go ahead and proceed with it. And I with all my heart, hope it goes through, because it's going to be a nice asset for Norco to have, and with an equestrian center, and we never can have too many equestrian centers.
Mrs. Daniels?
I think there are developers that lease land that are in this type of situation where they're developing raw land. So I think each and every lease would be its own unique situation. Specifically to Silver Lakes, don't know what the initial negotiations were, proposals that he was looking for when as far as taking the land in its current condition. I'm tired of Silver Lakes questions, but we're keep beating the same question over and over. But would I lease a property without those developments in place? Perhaps. We'd have to see what the developer, what their end use was for it, what their financial situation was, what their intentions were, and it may or may not be advantageous for us, depending upon our financial situation, to develop those, infrastructures or not. I mean, I think that's pretty generic.
Thank you. And Councilman Bash?
Very quickly, we own the land. We are required to develop it. We were going to use redevelopment funds to develop it. We instead used bond proceeds. When redevelopment went away, the governor took it. We took bond proceeds, i.e. we began to develop our own land, but instead of we developing it and we being out of the 5.2 million, we made a deal with R.J. Brandis that we would loan him the money, which he would repay the loan. What is on the property is storm drains, water improvements. It is what's called, it's actually fine graded, and what you need to do now is do a sweet grade. You have all your fields that are graded, your roads that are graded. One of the things that's really frustrating is you are allowed to grade. What do you think you can't grade when you put in water improvements? It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So anyway, the point of this is that it's now at a point where we're waiting for the bank simply to fund the rest of this project. By the way, out in the middle of that, there's $1 million in synthetic fields that was imported from Europe. Those things are all just sitting there waiting.
Thank you. And does anybody want to do a 30-second follow-up rebuttal? No? Okay. Next question. This one will begin with Mr. Bowen. What are your thoughts on the proposed bond Corona Norco Unified Schools District wants to put on the 2014 ballot?
My thoughts of the bond they would have put on?
Yeah, what are your thoughts on the proposed bond Corona Norco Unified School District wants to put on the 2014 ballot?
I disagree with it, but because right now, we don't need to be spending, we're digging ourselves out of a hole, and I don't want, we should just, oh, sorry. The bond that the Unified School District and Corona Norco is going to be put forward, my personal opinion, it should be tabled right now, and we should be I should say they should be concentrating on other stuff, and that's my opinion.
Thank you. And Mrs. Daniels?
I have not looked into that information enough to really voice an opinion either way at this point in time. Perhaps we've got some bigger fish to fry, but I'm going to go ahead and pass on that one.
Thank you. And Councilman Bash?
The bond is for improvements to safety because of the killings that happened back east, to put in higher fencing. Also to upgrade many of the schools in the city of Norco, which have a beautiful football field but do not have Wi-Fi inside the buildings. That is what the bond is for. I really haven't thought about it in terms of whether we should vote for it or not. I think we need those things because most people don't know. We're getting rid of textbooks. We're going to tablets. We're going to digital. That is the future. What I'm really concerned about is the fact that we're going to have districts for our trustees. And Norco, once again, because of our demographics in terms of Hispanic, whites, blacks, we probably will not have a trustee who represents our district, and that really concerns me. Kathy Azevedo and I, we have fought the wars to fight for Norco High School. You can't even believe Harvey was involved in that too. Fighting to improve Norco High School was a battle royal that took years and years, and we're very afraid we're going to lose our representation.
And Mr. Newton?
Thank you. I haven't had the sufficient amount of time to research all the bond issue. That the funding that we have for our students, we need to spend the money on that, education, safety, etc. In the last election, though, we had a bond issue and a tax issue. And once again, we were deceived. I think this is going to take some studying, and all of us as residents have to look at this. One of the good points that we also need to make is Norco doesn't have representation on the board. We do need to have our own trustee, and I think it's about time we start putting our foot down on that. Thank you.
Mr. Bowen?
Like I said, I stand on my that we need to table it, and I will vote for it if it comes up for me. And as far as the other issues of the bond, Wi-Fi, who knows? Wi-Fi is going to be obsolete in 2 years. You know, just like everything else. Everything's going wireless, and one thing's going to lead into another.
Any other 30-second rebuttals?
Thanks.
Okay, next question. If we could go to Mrs. Daniels, please. Checking both my cheat sheets to make sure that I'm on the right person. CLG status.
There we go.
What is CL?
Oh, you guys are just so fun with me. Love it, love it, love it. Well, honesty is the best policy, and I'm not familiar with CLG.
Thank you. Councilman Bash?
CLG is certified local government. We were the 60th city in the state of California to get it. The reason was if you want to get grants and things to, for example, take care of the Norconian or some of the other historic buildings on the naval base and the prison and the college, you have to be a certified local government in order to get those funds. So in order to do that, you have to have a historic commission, which some of the people are here. You have to adhere to a survey of the entire city. You have to show that you take care of your artifacts and your archives. Most people don't know that the city of Norco has an incredible collection that unfortunately is in great disarray. However, the LNCF, which I started years ago, is actually funding an archival study to find out the best way to organize that collection, and then we have a wonderful historic commission that's actually going to oversee that. With certified local government, it's very difficult to get, but it's a great way to get grants. It's about history.
Thank you. And Mr. Newton?
Well, I'll just keep that very brief. It is certified local government. One of the aspects of being on the Lake Norconian Club Foundation is the history of this town. That our goal is to protect that resource and also and access to the club. There are approximately 19 historical buildings on site now that are certified, and I believe that number could go way upwards if we were granted access. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen?
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I didn't know what it was until I'd seen the other two guys talking about it. And I'm not going to lie to you. But we have a lot of historical buildings in this town. We used to have the Merino house that was up there on the hill. And just talking to Kevin, Kevin's very versed in this. And it's actually, I enjoy listening to him talk about all the historical landmarks we have. And do we need to preserve them? Absolutely. Can you hear me? Okay. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Any 30-second rebuttals?
The reason that certified local government is so important is because we are fighting to preserve the Norconian. 17 features, buildings, and structures are on the National Register per the Norconian Historic District. There's another 2 districts that I'm going to really fight to form. That's the Naval Hospital era and the Cold War era. That is 200 buildings, features, and structures that need to be listed on the National Register. This is the last standing World War II naval hospital in existence. It's got nurses' quarters, theaters, chapel, all kinds of things. And we must be well versed in this in order to preserve that wonderful structure or facility.
Any other 30-second rebuttals? Okay, Councilman Bash, you'll be first on this question. Excuse me. Many newer realtors in Norco want to turn the area into another Orange County. Higher sales, higher commissions. That would include sidewalks, street lighting, smaller lots, etc. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Next year, we're going to do the impossible. 50 years of the last city in the state of California, by law, you build on a half acre or more. They told us it couldn't be done the first 25 years, we did it. I'm going to preserve that, and it's very interesting. I was one of those people supported by the Realtor Board. I was totally honest. I said what I wanted to do. I want to preserve our rural lifestyle, which is large lots to trails to open space. That is what Norco is. And as long as we keep horses here, you're not going to have a council come along and say, well, you know what, let's just rezone this for 8 houses per acre, because we make a lot of money. One-time only fees. I will never vote for dense housing.
Many new realtors in Norco want to turn the area into another Orange County. Higher sales, higher commissions. That would include sidewalks, street lighting, smaller lots, etc. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Here a few months ago, we had a candidate forum with Tigard, the Inland Empire Realty Group. And I was also endorsed by that group. I did not get the feeling that they're looking to minimize our lot size, to bring in sidewalks. The message was extremely clear from our side that it's not going to happen in Norco. The crux of this, and I brought this up, is we have to go by our general plan. Small plot agriculture, animal keeping, and the equestrian lifestyle. That's what our city's based on. All council decisions need to be based on that. An experience in land use, that it is the primary element that protects us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
Can you hear me now? Over my dead body. That's all I gotta say. Each and every person in here, the reason they're here is because they love Norco. I love Norco because Norco's Norco. I mean, in 1969, my brother was on a horse pulling me down Temescal because it was flooded in a boat. And you know, I remember those things. And you know why? Because it's a small town. We have a charter, and I brag to people because we have a charter. I didn't have nothing to do with it, but I love it. And the reason I love it is because it's the only way we're going to be able to preserve Norco and keep Norco the way Norco is. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Daniels.
Yorba Linda is 15 miles west. That's where the realtor needs to go hang their license. No way. I moved from there to here for that very reason. Absolutely. We do not need to change our lot sizes. We do not need to rezone how many horses per acre. We absolutely, over my dead body, and as long as I'm alive and in this city, will not have sidewalks. Yeah, no way.
Thank you. Any 30-second rebuttals on that? Okay.
But by the way, just so you know, I read in the Daily Bulletin that property values in the city of Norco have risen $200 a square foot. So realtors like that.
Okay, Mr. Newton, you will be the first for this question. And this is kind of an interesting one. What other city council candidates do you feel are most prepared for this 4-year commitment, and why should we, as Norconians, choose you over the other candidates?
Repeat that first part, or repeat all of it, please.
What other city council candidates do you feel are most prepared for this 4-year commitment, and why should we, as Norconians, choose you over the other candidates?
I'd first like to say that I'm more than willing to work with anybody. I'm a team player, and being a team player, I can certainly work with any of the candidates. If there's the golden wand, then I would choose to work with Mr. Bash He's certainly been involved throughout the Parks and Rec Commission and council, and he's out there. Why I feel that I would be the best candidate for council is that experience is what counts. I've spent 9 years on the Planning Commission, 1 year as an appointed council member, various volunteer projects from the Corydon staging area, and now the Engels Park Memorial. I firmly believe that I have a solid grasp of land use, and that when you hire somebody to run your city, this is not a trainee job.
Mr. Bowen. You need to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Okay. What other city council candidates do you feel are most prepared for this 4-year commitment? Why should we as Norconians choose you over the other candidates?
Well, that's a tough one, because Kevin's probably has the most experience, and I'm going to keep it short and sweet. And the reason I have a dedication to Norco, and that's why I think I'm the best pick to be your next city councilman. Oh, sorry. And I love this city. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a politician. I will tell you exactly the way I feel. And am I going to work hard? Absolutely. And do I know a lot of the stuff that's going on in Norco? I do. There's a lot of stuff I don't. And that's the case with a lot of people out there. But I love getting involved in my city. I love volunteering. And do I think I'm the best candidate for the job? Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Daniels?
Well, I think my background in business gives me the experience to make decisions based on need, not impulse. I'm an independent thinker, common sense. I don't make decisions without fully researching my decisions. We need someone like myself who has new ideas, drive, and compassion for change. And I think that's really what we need right now, is we need a new set of eyes, we need some change. And how I'm going to vote, I'm going to keep that personal at the moment.
Thank you. And Councilman Bash?
When I ran for council 4 years ago, I ran as the oldest newcomer on the block because I'd already served 10 years on the Park and Rec Commission, 2 years on the Historic Commission. I'd served on the Animal Keeping Ad Hoc Committee. I'd served as board members in 3 youth sports things, referee, sponsor, coach, very involved in scholarships, done a ton of things. This is really not, it's not like the old days. This is a business. You got to be able to sell Norco, and so I just think you've got to have experience. It's not a trainee job. It really is not. Those days are gone. We have a lot of issues happening, and right now, quite honestly, after working with Greg, I would have to choose Greg as the person. Nothing against the other 2. They just need to serve some time elsewhere. But Greg, we made a tough decision when we moved from our own fire department to CAL FIRE. That was tough. He was also the economic development driver. He was one of those votes that we really, really needed. It's a tough job, and you got to have experience, and you got to come out running.
Thank you. Any 30-second follow-ups? Hearing none, if we could pass that down to Mr. Bowen. And next question. You ready, Freddie? What would you do to bring additional revenue to the city?
First of all, I would help the process of being able to start a business, being able to go into the planning department, going into the planning commission, streamline that, because like I was saying before, a lot of people, and I'm not just talking 1, 2, I'm talking a lot of people come up to me, and their number 1 complaint is it takes a long time to go through the process, and time is money. And the only way that we can get new businesses to come into this town and to help them out when they get here is to streamline everything. I said it last time, I'm saying it this time, and the same thing, the same complaints are there. I've talked to the new businesses that have come to this town, and they say the same thing. The city surprises them on every time they go in, and there's something new. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Daniels?
I think we need to create more awareness about the businesses we do have in town. I think we need to encourage Shop Norco. Gas stations are one of the best revenue generators that we have. Bed tax is great, but we're only, we all live here, so we're not going to go stay in the local hotel. But maybe we can, encourage our gas stations. We can, get our arms wrapped around them, get them to run a little bit more competitive prices if we commit to shopping there. I understand if we're not already, correct me if I'm wrong, we've got water surplus, to sell and make some money off of. There's a big plot of land that's sitting over on the corner of Corridon and River Road. Maybe we need to, relook at that with the developer. And it's not going to be half-acre lots, it's just not zoned that way. But before Corona gets the property taxes on it, maybe we need to consider rezoning that and allowing a developer to put in some, 7,000 square foot homes and get some more property taxes.
Thank you. Councilman Bash.
I'm kind of in the process. I mean, you have a council right now that's really hustling. I personally visited about 80% of the businesses, asking what their problems are. We are cold calling. I know Mayor Azevedo, Berwin Hanna, right now, they're talking to businesses. We are trying to find out what their problems are, and we are visiting. One of the advantages I have is I have a brick and mortar business. I mean, I make a payroll every 2 weeks. These are things that I understand. I really do pull permits. I think that one of the key issues to all of this is that you just have to hustle to bring those businesses to town. And I think you have to have that ability.
And Mr. Newton.
You're not going to be able to tax or cut your way to growth, and that's going to be true for all businesses. Business has to have the confidence to succeed. What we need to look at to be business friendly is our business license. We can reduce these fees and at the same time increase revenues. But we need to also even the playing field. We have businesses that don't have business license, some do. The legitimate companies that are out there paying the liability insurance, the workman's comp, all the licensing, they're at an unfair advantage compared to the unlicensed contractors. But what you need to be is business friendly and encourage these contractors so that they start playing by the rules of the city.
Great. Anybody have a 30-second rebuttal?
Right now, we have a prime example. We have new businesses coming in, Hobby Lobby, Tractor, what's the name of the tractor company? It's a Tractor Supply. Right now, we have a perfect example. If we streamline the way they can do business in this town and make it friendly, it's going to get out there. More businesses are going to want to come in, and they're not going to be saying, oh, hey, don't go to Norco because all you do is get a runaround.
Any other 30 seconds?
I do, thank you. In regard to Mrs. Daniels' comment about that approximately 20 acres at Corridon and River, once again, this is an understanding of the charter issue. That property is zoned commercial, and why aren't we I'm going to protect that we keep it commercial and generate revenue. This becomes an understanding of land use and of our charter. Thank you.
That particular property, I was thinking of the Navy property where our wells are. That actually is a deed restriction, and we cannot do anything with that in terms of commercial. But the commercial property, we're already working on that. The thing I need to remind everybody is this year we pulled in $15.9 million. And so we have a $2 million reserve, and that came from sales tax revenues. We are having a banner year, and next year when Hobby Lobby hits, Winco hits, Tractor Supply hits, we're going to have a lot of money in this city. One of the things I'm afraid of is you have a council that will spend it like crazy.
Yeah. Thank you. 30 seconds.
We have a lot of existing buildings and locations within our cities that businesses can relocate to. We don't need to develop another plot of land into commercial. They will not prosper. They will not, that location over there just won't happen that way. And we can change the zoning, and we need to put that land to use.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next question, and actually, Mrs. Daniels, you will keep the mic because you're first on the next question. But before we move on, I just wanted to make a comment on how pleased I am to see all the young folks here, which we've lost some of them. Let me guess, Mr. Button is your teacher? Oh. Well, thank you for bringing them, and I hope you guys are enjoying this and learning something. Okay, next question. We're starting with Mrs. Daniels. This is for all. With the usual personal obligations, will you be able to attend all meetings and county obligations?
Absolutely, yes. And that is part of my goal in my personal lifestyle, where I've gotten to a position with my autistic son in particular, and the rest of my family and children, who are absolutely, that is already committed in my lifestyle, fully supported by my family. And I have absolutely every intention of getting even further involved with what we're doing in our community, not to mention only my obligations with City Council.
Thank you. Councilman Bash?
Well, I've been attending meetings since I first got ticked off of my neighbor for a flooding issue in 1995. I've been yelled at the podium. I've stood at the podium fighting battles. I've sat on commissions. I mean, literally for almost 2 decades, I have been appearing at these meetings, and I actually think that's very, very important if you want to sit on council.
And Mr. Newton?
I've been active in the city for the past 12 years, not just the last few months. I served 9 years on the Planning Commission. I did not miss one meeting. Served an appointee to City Council, did not miss one meeting. And I've attended all city workshops, study sessions, and ad hoc committees. Thank you.
Mr. Bowen?
Well, like all the other things that I do, when I commit to something, I commit 110%. Not just 100%, but I go over the line. And will I attend? Absolutely. And I'll give it my 100%, and I'll give it the extra 10%, like my coach used to say. But it's going to take somebody that's got a lot of drive to be able to be a councilman, and I believe that I've got that, and I've got the best heart, and I know Norco's in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any 30-second follow-ups?
I want to say something about, I couldn't get on a commission to save my life. I think I was turned down 3 times, and I still went to council meetings. And when Greg Newton was not elected the last time, he came to the very next council meeting. And I think that what that shows is that people really care about their community. Whether they win or they lose, they're still sitting there. And I think that's character.
Thank you. Any other 30-second follow-ups? Okay, this question is addressed to Mrs. Daniels. Thank you, Kevin. How many Silver Lakes meetings have you attended?
Loaded question. Loaded another question.
Well, there was a meeting in August, a city council meeting that I attended that Mr. Brandis was at. That doesn't really count as a Silver Lakes meeting, but he was there and gave his presentation. I also attended a couple of weeks ago a presentation that was done right here. Not that that was a workshop for Silver Lakes in any particular way, but an enlightening presentation of what some of the things the city has progressed thus far.
Thank you. Do we need a 30-second follow-up on that? You don't? Okay. This one's actually addressed to one individual, but I'm going to ask it of all of them. So if we could have Councilman Bash, you're already ready. What changes do you want to make to Norco?
You know, I love Norco. I mean, I've been here since 1961. I've watched it grow. I guess if there's anything, it would be that is to continue generating business. You know, and to be friendly to business. You know, imagine if you're RJ Brandis and you have followed this contract all the way through. It's been adapted, it's been molded, you're still standing there, you're paying money. And imagine somebody looked to you and said, hey, RJ, you know what? We want you to succeed, but we got to look for somebody else just in case. I'm sorry, that's not business friendly. And I think we need to support those projects, and we really need to look for those businesses that support our lifestyle so you don't have to pay taxes. I've been killing myself, Kathy, a lot of people, so you don't have to pay taxes. We've been generating income. You know, we could solve all of our problems for about 15 bucks a month. But we don't do that. We look for business, and I think if people understood that we are a business and everybody is a part of it, you own Silver Lakes.
Thank you. Mr. Newton?
Please repeat that again, Pam.
Absolutely. What changes do you want to make to Norco?
as much as I hate change, that I'd like to start getting serious about common sense business. That the city, we need to run it as a business, we need transparency, that we communicate with the residents, and that's all anyone's asking for. Don't pull the wool over our eyes, just communicate. If it's bad news, good news, at least let us know where we're standing with this. From a business sense, I think we need to once again, we have to level the playing field, we have to be business friendly, we want people to be confident, and we want people to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowen? What changes would you like to make to Norco?
Well, I'd like to change Norco to when it was back in 1969, 70, right around there. That's when I had the most fun. But if I was going to change Norco, I would like to change Norco back the way it was. Have the town more friendly. You know, have this town volunteers so much. You go to these functions and you see people, that's all they do is volunteer. And it's phenomenal. And do I want to change Norco? I want to change Norco back the way it was. I want Norco to be more friendly. And if it's more friendly for our seniors. It's more friendly for our kids. And it's more friendly for business. And do I want to change? Yeah, I want to change Norco back the way it was.
And Mrs. Daniels?
Well, I'd like to see us create a better lifestyle for our seniors. I'd like to see the city get its arms back around our youth and build up our youth programs and be a city where our kids can stay here, play their sports, not have their parents trucking them over to Corona or Eastville to play their sports, but just keep it here. We need to redevelop those two things. I'd like to change by reprioritizing spending, balance our budget, and eliminate the dissension that we have in our town and the split that we have right now, because it is very disheartening.
Thank you. Any follow-up?
Yeah, as a 10-year Park and Rec Commissioner, there's several of you here. I don't know what she means. Our parks and rec programs are full. If there's something I'd like to change is that we continue, yeah, it is. And so that we continue to have a balanced budget. In other words, we only spend what we make. I think that's vitally important. There's commissioners out there, you can ask them.
Any other 30-second follow-ups? Mrs. Daniels?
I personally spoke with board members on JAF, Norco Girls Softball, and Little League. And our baseball cannot even hold its own league. We have to integrate with Corona. JAF is down almost 3 full teams, and each team normally has 30-plus players on it. When my son played, there was 50 players on his team. They have 18 to 20 players. Absolutely, our youth programs are suffering big time.
No. Okay, this question is directed, I'm sorry, you want a 30-second reply? Okay. This question is directed to Mrs. Daniels. Kind of a long one, you ready? On a previous comment, you said you didn't want to let realtors cut up the half-acre lots. Then you want to purchase a piece of land by Corona and allow 7,000 square foot homes. Which is it? Half-acre lots or 7,000 square foot homes?
Well, that's one parcel of land that's sitting right now doing absolutely nothing. So those are two totally separate issues. So don't mix my words up there. I am absolutely not pro dividing any of our existing half-acre lots, any of our current zoning. I'm talking about taking a pile of dirt that I drive by and look at every day, and let's start generating some revenue on it. It is not conducive to put half-acre lots there. We need to be realistic. Stores are not going to flourish there. It's just not going to have the demographics to support that. But it's sitting right now generating zero in income. Let's do something with it. We have homes right over here that have small lots. We have a couple of streets of them. There are neighbors, there are residences. This is just one small lot. Don't mix my words, don't mix up my saying there.
Thank you. Any follow-up, 30-second follow-up? Okay.
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
On that, In regard to that property at Corydon and River, it's zoned commercial. Uh, to go ahead and go through LAFCO and say that you want to build 7,000 square foot lots or residential housing, even if it's half acre. Residential housing is short-term economic gain, long-term impact. It is not a sound financial policy to follow.
Thank you. Any other 30 seconds? Councilman Bash?
That's a piece of property we're going to be seeing here in a little while, and hopefully I'll be on council to see it. There's more money in actually annexing New Corona because you'll get more money for the more houses on the property. But it is a commercial piece of property. We are looking at some people that are looking at that property. I sure would hate to see that go.
Okay, next question, Mr. Newton. This is actually for everybody, it just starts with you. If we had a manure to energy plant, how many trucks a day would we need to haul to the plant?
Our horses produce 58 to 60 tons a day. So if a trash truck can hold, let's say 10 tons of manure, whether it's wet or dry, we'll all do the math and say approximately 6 trucks. You'd also have the scout service to service those packers. So no more than 8 daily, and so those trips are minimal. If we were to look at, say, at Engels Park, wherever this facility could go, if it was in Norco, that the traffic impact's not that great if you're looking at 6 to 8 trips a day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
The amount of trucks we need right now, Waste Management has 1 truck that picks up the manure. He runs all day long. So he hits every house that has a bin that picks it up all day long, and basically we'll be doing the same thing. Is we'll have 1 truck that will be going to the site where he's going to offload and where they're going to process it, so we'd only have 1 truck. That's the only thing we have right now, is 1 truck that delivers all our manure, but he does it all day long.
Thank you, and Mrs. Daniels.
I mean, we need enough trucks to get the job done. I mean, what more can I say?
Thank you, and Councilman
The
Bash.
truth is, we don't know how much manure we have. We have people stockpiling in the back. We have people doing illegal hauling. We have people who can't afford the service, so they leave it in the backyard. We don't know how much manure we have. But what's key to this is no matter how many trucks you have, you need to have a facility that you can drive into and pretty much do everything inside a closed containment center. That's key, first and foremost.
Thank you. Any 30-second follow-ups?
Yeah. Obviously, you have enough equipment to do the job, but at the last study session with Waste Management, their handout that was available to all that attended called for 8 additional trucks for our manure removal.
Okay. Mr. Bowen?
I talked to the trash guy because I knew this was going to be coming up. There's 1 truck in the city of Norco that's dedicated for manure, Monday through Friday. And on Monday, he picks up manure. The same truck picks it up Monday through Friday. So it's 1 truck. He makes several trips, but it's 1 truck, and that's what we're doing right now.
Okay. Mrs. Daniels?
So do we have a competitive quote out there to make sure that whatever Waste Management has quoted us is the right number?
Okay. The next question will begin with Mr. Bowen. And actually, we are only going to have 2 more questions, so I kind of took executive privilege and looked through a few and picked some that I liked. So we're going to have 2 more questions, and then we'll do a closing statement. So this one begins with Mr. Bowen. Will you vote to change zoning the land of the 15th Freeway and 2nd Street from residential to have a hotel or strip mall, even if residents are not in favor of it?
Well, actually, I was looking, me and David Hall were looking at making some awesome houses over there, so I'd have to say I'm all for keeping it residential, you know, to keep horses.
And Mrs. Daniels?
Again, we have enough vacancies for commercial in this town, and absolutely, I would be pro-residential. We don't need any commercial over there.
And Councilman Bash?
I already voted on this issue. I was the swing vote. I voted no. I lived on Pedley Avenue where I was promised that certain things would happen in the development of the hills, and my street was destroyed by that development. So I have a policy that, first off, I'm not going to change a previous council's decision on a specific plan, but more importantly, whatever development goes there has to improve the lifestyle and the life of the people that live around it.
And Mr. Newton?
It's actually a very interesting question. That a few years ago, we went through the largest housing development that we'll ever see in our lifetime. And that parcel, nobody was building homes there. If you stand back and look at it, possibly commercial is the highest and best use. But fundamentally, I'm not going to change. That is A120 zoning. It's residential, agriculture, and the fundamentals and the preservation of our lifestyle is based on that. And then you add the component of the neighbors and the impacts to them, that's who you're going to be listening to. So at this time, I would certainly not support changing that zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any 30-second follow-ups? Okay, hearing none, if we could send the mic back down to Mrs. Daniels. This one, I believe, was put in here by one of our young people because it's on notebook paper. So, what do you think the biggest single issue is in Norco? How will you fix it? Let me guess, that was yours?
That's tough to pull one thing out, honestly. I think if I could say, if I have to just say one, boy, that is a tough one. Our financial situation. I mean, we need a balanced budget, and we need to reprioritize our spending and get our city back on track financially. Perhaps first and foremost.
Thank you. And Councilman Bash.
We need more deputies. First and foremost, we need motorcycle cops back, and to do that, we need to develop a financial platform on which we can do that long term. I believe we are turning things around. Again, the proof is in the pudding. $3.5 million in the hole 4 years ago, $2 million in the general fund. We're less than $600,000 in our deficit from last year. So we are on the road to that. Now we need to build to get public safety and deputies.
Thank you. Mr. Newton.
Public safety is the first requirement of government. Now, in order to do that, you have to have the funding. So, economic stability, financial control with our budgets, generating revenue, this is how we're going to pay for our police department. It's not going to be through grants. It's going to be by reducing our structural imbalance and pre-funding these trusts and these pensions so that we have the money in our general fund. As revenues increase, then we can provide for our
Contract city
police and our fire.
What it means is we have people deploy out of our station. So at any given time when they're having shift changes, they shift change in our city. Eastvale, some of the Eastvale cops go over there too, and that's why the cars are there. So that means during the shift change, you have extra deputies on duty in your city. So that's really the reason behind that. But again, it's long term. How do you support it long term?